Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Oh man, it's happening, or I guess you could say it's continuing to happen. The Democrats are imploding right before our very eyes. You know, clearly their antics as of late haven't been exactly perceived well by the American public and even the mainstream media, and even their own Democrat strategists and aligned media talking heads. So you'd think again that they'd take a step back and say, all right guys, maybe screeching about Trump 24/7 isn't the play, maybe it's not the best strategy. Maybe we shouldn't act like total petulant third graders throughout this entire process. Maybe, just maybe, we should reconnect with voters and try to rebuild the party from the ground up. You know, trying to win over people with decent policies and a good message going into the next election, but nope. The Democrats are going full tantrum mode instead, building the whole counter strategy to Trump around the concept of mindless, knee-jerk resistance. Doesn't matter what the policy is, doesn't matter if it's good for the country. If Trump's for it, we're against it. And that strategy, folks, it's backfiring big time and it's pulling the party apart. You know, just recently, these clowns actually thought that they could force a government shutdown or threaten a government shutdown as their latest form of protest because they didn't get the chance to stuff the latest CR bill with a bunch of wasteful pork spending. In other words, threatening to take the American people hostage because they aren't getting what they wanted. And it just backfired in such spectacular fashion, and now they're eating each other alive in the media. Total freaking chaos on the left-wing side. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so you know what's been happening. Democrats have been threatening a government shutdown if they don't get what they want, despite the hypocrisy being through the roof here, because these are the same people who have been screeching for years about how awful, reckless, and dangerous government shutdowns are.
Senseless shutdown is inflicting great pain in every part of our country. Every day, the impact spread, reaching the lives of hardworking Americans.
Shutdowns are not good for the economy.
It is unbelievable that we have a president who is prepared to deny basic governmental services to millions of Americans who need those services. End this shutdown.
The government shutdown is throwing a major wrench into a fragile economic recovery.
But of course, we know Democrats don't care about being consistent on the record, so they went right back to that cringe, pathetic strategy of threatening a government shutdown, and it really didn't play well with the American public, especially considering it's just perceived as another element of this mindless resistance campaign that they've been on as of late. You know, following everything that happened after Trump's first address, when the public's turning on you and your approval ratings are in the gutter in the 20s, probably not a good idea to then threaten the American public with a disastrous shutdown, and so it didn't exactly go as planned, and now Chuck Schumer has completely folded, backing down and pulling back on their pathetic little shutdown threat. I guess because Democrat leadership finally realized that it's not a good look and the timing's horrible.
That Republican rejection leads us to a decision. And it's not really a decision, it's a Hobson's choice. Either proceed with the bill before us or risk Donald Trump throwing America into the chaos of a shutdown. This, in my view, is no choice at all. While the CR bill is very bad, the potential for a shutdown has consequences for America that are much, much worse. For sure, the Republican bill is a terrible option. It is not a clean CR. It is deeply partisan. It doesn't address far too many of this country's needs. But I believe allowing Donald Trump to take even much more power via a government shutdown is a far worse option. And before I explain why, let me be clear about one thing. No one on my side of the aisle wants a government shutdown. Members who support this CR do not want a government shutdown. Members who oppose this CR do not want a government shutdown. I will vote to keep the government open and not shut it down.
And now, well, the left is eating itself alive, with, of course, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez leading the charge against Chuck Schumer, basically calling him a traitor to the cause.
Chuck Schumer, I guess the Senate Democratic leader, your senator, said at this meeting that he is going to vote for cloture. He is going to vote to allow there to be a simple majority vote. You think that's wrong?
I believe that's a tremendous mistake. The American people, if anyone has held a town hall or has seen what has been happening in town halls, American people, whether they are Republicans, independents, Democrats, are up in arms about Elon Musk and the actual gutting of federal agencies across the board. This turns the federal government into a slush fund for Donald Trump and Elon Musk It sacrifices congressional authority, and it is deeply partisan. And so to me, it is almost unthinkable why Senate Democrats would vote to hand the few pieces of leverage that we have away for free when we've been sent here to protect Social Security, protect Medicaid, and protect Medicare.
And so clearly things aren't going so well on the left. Something is happening. There is a deep, widening divide in the Democrat Party. The radicals are completely out of control. They're so wrapped up in their narcissism and delusion that they actually believe they still frickin' run the country. Even after getting absolutely demolished in the election, losing the House, losing the Senate, and the White House, these people still think that they should be calling the shots. That is insane. You lost, Democrats. And I think it's time to accept that, but clearly, there's this fundamentally narcissistic view on the left that even when they lose elections in dramatic fashion, lose everything, they still believe they have the right to dictate the direction of the country. They're insane, and clearly cannot accept election results, but probably more specifically and more accurately, cannot handle not being in power or control. And of course, as always, we have to point out that this is coming from the party that's constantly going on and on about democracy. Well, if you actually cared about democracy, you'd be paying attention to what the people actually want. But clearly, the Democrat Party doesn't care. They don't care about the American people. They don't care that they lost in a landslide. They don't care that 89% of counties shifted red. They don't care that the vast majority of Americans are over them. Donald Trump, the most controversial figure in American politics that the media is constantly attacking, won the popular vote. And there's a mandate, yet in their minds, they feel as though they're still entitled to power. And that right there is why it's all falling apart. That's why their party is crumbling, because their delusions do not match reality. And their leadership, I think, is starting to figure that out. Schumer probably knows it. A couple other Democrats probably know it, and that's why they're backing down. They know Democrats look like complete unhinged clowns, but the radical wing, oh, they don't care. They just don't care, because everything is justified in the resistance against orange fascism. But in this resistance, in this environment, essentially what they're telling the people is that they will stand in their way. They will stand in the way of a clear mandate that the American people voted for. This administration is doing things that are wildly popular with the American public, things that people, again, voted for. You know, I know the left is throwing a hissy fit over Donald Trump gutting federal institutions and agencies. It's the end of the world that Donald Trump wants to end the Department of Education, for instance. But that's what people voted for. They voted for the guy who literally had that as one of his main campaign promises. That's gotta mean something, no? And now it's clear what this Trump administration is trying to do, and what Republicans are trying to do. They're trying to cut spending. The mandate is to balance the budget so they can deliver a massive tax cut for the middle class. That's what Howard Lutnick announced yesterday.
When the president balances the budget, his first move is going to be, he has suggested that he would like to waive taxes for people under $150,000. That's aspirational, that when we balance the budget, and let me tell you, he's got a plan to balance this budget, right? We are going to take $1 trillion out of the waste, fraud, and abuse of all of our entitlements and all of our systems and all of our waste, and then we are going to raise $1 trillion. That's the Trump card. The Trump gold card is going to be a huge revenue producer. Tariffs are going to be a huge revenue producer. And then getting rid of all the tax scams like Ireland making $75 billion budget surplus. You cut all that stuff out, you got a balanced budget. But on the way, we're going to cut no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security.
And I'm really glad he said that, because that's exactly what I said when I initially reacted to that news, that there was a plan to cut taxes for people making less than $150,000 a year. I said what has to come first, or the most important thing, if you want to get something like that done, is you have to balance the budget and reduce the size of government before you start putting the money back in the hands of the people. And so clearly they get it. The American people support this. This is probably what a vast majority of Americans support. But what are Democrats doing? They're fighting it, because they don't care about the American people. They only care about their own power. They want a big bloated government. They want to keep the racket alive. They want to keep the money funneling and money laundering to their leftist organizations and NGOs going.
And let me just opine just for a second on why my Democrat colleagues on the other side are so nervous about all this DOGE stuff. It's because this racket that's been used to launder taxpayer dollars to their buddies and their left-wing radical groups, the gravy train is stopping, and it's terrifying to them. But to normal people in real America, they think this stuff is crazy. And finally, we have somebody in the Oval Office with a team who can root this stuff out. So keep going. We're just getting started with this stuff, and we'll be back next week with more ridiculous things that the Democrats want funded with your taxpayer dollars.
And clearly that's more important to them than fulfilling the mandate of the people than working with this administration that was democratically elected to achieve certain goals. The Democrat Party is completely broken. They have no message, no leadership, no direction, and no clue how to read the room, how to read the voters. No, these days all they know how to do is desperately cling on to power and throw tantrums whenever their power is called into question or threatened. How sad, and I hope people can see it. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys on this one. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.